Okay, so we just finished the Dakar drill, and so we're going to skip E because that's the Egyptian drill. So the next one on our list is F, going alphabetically. So next is the fly drill. Fly, coming from the exercise, the cable flies. So you go to a gymnasium and you see people exercising. They have some kind of handle or toggle with a cable attached to it, and the other is attached to some kind of resistance, either weights or a spring bar, something like that, and they do fly motions, okay? And the cable pulls back, and they do the fly across the chest, okay? Some people do two, okay, like this. And I was looking at this motion one day, and I go, that would be a challenge to figure out how to get friction, rotations with that kind of movement, because that would work somehow. Then I need to reverse engineer and figure out all the devices that I would need to make that happen. In a way, it's based on the way the bilateral force comes off a pump drill with a cord. And I really realized that it had to be that way, and the bilateral force coming off had to be completely equal, because if it didn't come off equal, there was going to be some kind of drift. So however this thing was set up and stabilized, it had to have equal bilateral force along with the pulling. Now, I really needed to figure out how I was going to store the energy for the rotation on the return. And so you'll see what I kind of came up with. So I think you'll really enjoy it. I have to say, though, it is one of the most ridiculous things I have ever come up with. Because after doing this and getting a cold with it, I was so exhausted. This truly goes against the grain of more pieces, less effort. This one is truly more pieces, more effort, because it takes a whole lot of energy. And if you're not going to get it the first couple tries, you're really going to exhaust yourself, okay? Now, you're going to probably see that I'm going to have some technical difficulties with some of my devices, and I'm going to do something about it next time I ever have to do a demo with that. I remember that happening the first time I did it, but I'm showing you how I did it exactly the way I first did it, with the same original pieces. So, except for the spindle. The spindle I had to replace, which I'll show you. So, here we go. Probably one of the most ridiculous things I've ever come up with. The fly drill as a civilized variation. Okay, enjoy. Okay, so here's how I put the fly drill together. I use my large toggle box. Okay, now I have these two pine studs devices, and you'll see that it has a hole up top, and it has a pulley wheel with a eye screw connected to it. And how this attaches, each one attaches to each wall. And I have a 6-inch, 3/8 inch bolt, which is bolted in there. Goes through the wall, okay? Goes through this hole. And then I have some rattan slats that I use. Now, 2 of them have a cord tied to them. Okay, the other 2 just have a hole through them. And what happens is the cord goes through holes that I placed in the spindle. This is the ash spindle, so I know it's not going to bust on me. What happens is these laths go behind the brace here, okay? This cord goes through the spindle and it goes to the other lath with a hole in it on the other side. And each one of these acts like a spring pole, or a bow, if you will, like a bow and arrow bow, all right, half a bow. And so these springs get locked behind these braces. So let me lock in this brace so we can put the spring poles in. Now the bottom part, and I have it marked here where, about where these should go. Okay. And this one goes down here. Okay, so here I've installed these wall braces. And you can see the bottom part is not screwed in, it's just nailed to secure it from slipping out. It is bolted to the top part. Here's the other side. Okay. Now, as you can see, these spring poles made of sections of rattan run through holes which are in the spindle itself. If I back up, you could see that they crisscross. Okay. Now one is higher, one is lower. Okay. Now these 2 in the middle, there's 2 holes here in the middle. These are for the toggle cords, which I'm going to install now. Okay. So this was my old spindle. Alright, you can see the 4 holes in it. But it was made of oak, and here's what happens with oak. It likes to split out. So therefore, I have this new one made of ash. Okay. So I'm going to install the toggle cords, and they're going to go from, they're going to wrap around the spindle, go through the pulley wheels. And the reason the pulley wheels are there is because there has to be equal bilateral force going to across each side in order to make this work, which you'll see. Alright, let me install those and we'll be right back. Okay, so I've attached the toggles, and you take the toggle, okay, now here's how you have to lead the cord. It goes through the pulley, okay, I'm going to put this back, goes through the pulley, then you have to wind it around the spindle, then it goes through the hole, okay. So here, the opposite side, the toggle goes through the pulley, goes around the spindle, and then goes through the hole. Now, as you can see, the cord from each one goes to the opposite side. So here, the cord comes off this side of the spindle, and this cord comes off that side of the spindle. And if you put them on the same side, you're going to be pulling against yourself, which won't be good. Because here you want bilateral force, just like a pump drill. Okay, the cord has to come off the spindle like a pump drill. So there it is. All right. Now I'm going to tell you that these the spindle reload and the base are already pre-mated. Okay. I think it's an incense cedar. I got it at the hardware store, and this is what it's made of. Very nice piece of cedar. Dry, light, excellent piece of wood. So that's a 3/4 inch. It's actually the spindle reload itself is probably bigger definitely than 3/4 of an inch. It's probably closer to 7/8 of an inch in diameter. All right. And so we're going to put some weights on. And it can be held in place by the nails. Maybe I only need one. I'm going to try with one first, I think. No, I'm not going to push it. Let's get a smaller one then. All right. And we'll put that up there. Okay. So we have our fly drill in place and on our toggle box, which is ready to go. Okay. So I'm going to put the camera down, get set up, and see this ridiculous thing go. Okay, here we go. Alright, so I've pre-filled the notch with some sawdust. Okay, so you can see it's not smoking, it's just pre-filled. I'll put the camera down carefully. Now I'm going to do it from this point of view where you're seeing through the toggle box, so you can actually see me struggle, because it's going to be a funny sight. Okay? So it's done basically like you're doing flies with cables at the gym. So these run across. Now, so I think we're ready to go. So when I pull, it stores energy in the spring pulls. So when I let go, the spring pulls should do the work. Okay. The problem is these rattan devices, they have memory, which means that when the fibers bend, they kind of stay like that. So what ends up happening, if I remember correctly, is the strokes end up being, the rotations are not as many, which you'll see. It's kind of a shorter stroke, which means a shorter rotation, which means I just have to keep going and keep going faster. Okay? Alright. This is going to be funny. Here we go. You know what? I need to choke up on the toggles, because I can't get the fly motion down. Oh, complication. Caught in the pulley. This was the problem with these pulleys is they're cheap. They have a lot of space in between them, and the cord always gets caught. I guess I gave it some slack in it. The problem is with this is you just run out of energy, period. this really has got to be one of the hardest things I could possibly come up with. Caught again. Okay. You know what I do? I give it slack, and then what happens is the cord jumps and goes into the space between the pulley. Come on. I'm trying to make this as smooth as possible, but it's just not happening. I got a good thing of dust going though. Oh, come on. I filled the notch with my own dust. Problem is I gotta ignite it now. Warm it back up. See, I just let it cool down. I should change these pulleys. They're just no good. Take off one weight. If only I could keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh, and we got it. All right. Should see it smoking. All right, I'm gonna take the camera off. Just be patient with me. That really is a ridiculous thing, right? So I have to pull across my body bilaterally to not only turn the spindle, but to store energy in the spring poles. Now, when I let go, the spring poles take over and do the back and forth motion. It does the rotation in the other direction. But this is definitely an example of more pieces, more effort. Not highly recommended, but in principle, definitely works. Okay, and next time I won't have such cheap pulleys that, see the space in between where the cord keeps getting caught, see the wheel move? Terrible. If I find better ones, I'm going to replace these if I can. Alright. Awesome. Alright. On to the next civilized variation.